When Assistant Inspector General of Police Andrew Felix Kaweesi, alongside his bodyguard Kenneth Erau and driver Godfrey Wambeu were assassinated in March 2018, President Museveni declared to fight such high-level criminality. Speaking at Kaweesi's vigil, Museveni cited unresolved murders of Joan Kagezi, Major Sulaiman Chigundu, and a number of Muslim clerics, and directed for the immediate installation of closed-circuit television surveillance of cameras in all major towns and along highways.
Now, whatever happens, you must buy the cameras and install them.
The $126 million deal, CCTV, nearly turned into a stillbirth as a result of graft and inflated prices. It was later cleared when the first batch of cameras were installed in Kampala in June 2019.
It's going to be much simpler. One of the least problems I have solved in the last 58 years of my work. Because these are just here in town. So all you need is to see them properly.
A year before, in June 2018, in the wake of the assassination of Arua Municipality MP Ibrahim Abiriga, Museveni pronounced another raft of measures, including installing digital tracking chips in all borders and motor vehicles to fight high-level criminality.
That's why we are trying to look for smarter solutions, as I will show you. The second measure we intend to introduce is to require every motor vehicle and every piki to have electronic number plates installed at the cost of the owner. The police has already banned this number 3 now. The police has already banned the practice of people zooming along our roads with jacket hoods to hide their identity. You know, they have these jackets. You have my jacket, you bring my jacket.
A phantom Russian company, joint stock company Global Security, which is facing bankruptcy proceedings in Moscow, emerged as a potential investor in June 2019. The project was superintended over by the National Security Council, which was probing high-profile murders at the time, a team from the Office of the Prime Minister, and security agencies including ISO and CMI. According to people familiar with the matter, the plan was to start with a pilot of around 1,000 and 1,500 motor vehicles out of the over 2 million vehicles in the country by the end of 2019. There are 2 forms of motor vehicle tracking. These are passive tracking system, where a beacon device is installed in the vehicle stored GPS location, allowed to move, and when it returns to a specific location, the device is removed and then data downloaded to a computer to analyze its movements. The second is the real-time tracking system, where the installed beacon transmits the vehicle's data in real time via gadgets such as mobile phones, tablets, laptops, satellite networks, to a remote computer at a data center. In June 2021, in the wake of the attempted assassination of former Chief of Defense Forces General Katumba Wamala, Museveni again talked tough on fighting crime and directed for the revival of the smart tracking system.
In addition to the cameras, our security leaders have been working on my directive of installing the digital monitors. This was part of the 12 points, to have a digital monitor in every vehicle, every piki-piki, so that wherever you are, the command post can know.
Joint stock company Global Security, which has no online presence, no digital footprint to establish its prior related experience, was this week thrust in the spotlight after it emerged that the company is facing multiple bankruptcy suits back home in Moscow. The suits were filed after the company couldn't dispense its debts and obligations.
Minister and our guests, have been present. Thank you very much for that.
Last month, on July 23rd, the permanent secretaries of the Ministry of Works and Transport and Presidency, on behalf of government, signed a memorandum of understanding with executives of the Russian company to implement the car tracking system for 10 years. Specifically, the deal involves installing GPS chips in all motor vehicles on Ugandan roads, which will require re-registration of all vehicles. Security Minister Jim Kaweesi, who witnessed the signing of the MOU, has since distanced himself from having initiated the deal as he is new in office. Attorney General Chirewa Chiwanuka, the government's legal advisor, when asked this week, challenged journalists to produce the evidence of insolvency against the company. A search of the company's base back home in Moscow indicates the company has no public profile, save for being seen sued by other companies for, among others, bankruptcy and failure to fulfill contractual obligations to provide goods, respectively.
The danger is this, that we know far too well the abuse of systems in government, okay? There have been many cases of people's private information being used for all manners of things, for blackmail, for political reasons. You don't want people to get into that sort of realm without having institutional guarantees and frameworks against abuse. But secondly, also the overall question of data sovereignty. You're dealing with Russians who are now involved in cyber war with the global West hacking into US systems.
NTV has also established that the company was once fined by Russian tax authorities for minor currency violation for supply of military hardware to the armed forces of Kazakhstan, a former Soviet republic in Central Asia, and Brazil in South America, respectively. The arms sales to the Kazakh army, court documents show, the company does not have its own production line, but rather acts as a conduit, the same in the case of supply of armory to the Brazilian Police Academy. Separately, the Russian firm was sued by multiple companies at the Moscow arbitration for bankruptcy between 2019 and 2020. In one case filed in September 2020, engineering company Gazprom Technology LLC sued joint stock company Global Security for failure to pay 776 million shillings. Following victory in the case, Gazprom Technology filed another suit to declare the company, now handpicked by the Ugandan government, bankrupt. The company has also been sued by two other companies, Oken Alam LLP for failure to pay about 400 million shillings, and by the pension fund of the Russian Federation for failure to pay 476,204 shillings and 2.1 million shillings respectively. Besides the concerns about the company's financial constraints, human rights activists have questioned the camera deal, which they opine it infringes on the right to privacy. Lawyer Nicholas Opio says the vehicle security gadget installation has no legal basis.
We are going into the realm of constitutional law. The question of limitation of the right to privacy. The law requires, of course, that right can be derogated from, but that derogation must be that which is acceptable in a free and democratic society. is it really acceptable by any legal standard in a free and democratic society that everybody driving a car must therefore be monitored and at every one time seen by the state? I don't think that that proposal passes the test of what is demonstrably justifiable.
He says it is now a norm for government to offer solutions haphazardly.
That every time there's incidents of some big person being shot, we proffer solutions in the heat of the moment and promise the country that this is the silver bullet. It's going to resolve all problems. We did the same things with national IDs. We said this will solve all crimes. We did the same thing with SIM cards. We did the same things with cameras. What the history of this kind of approaches has shown us is that they are not really well thought out government programs that are properly designed to resolve the problem they seek to resolve.
Legal Brains Trust, a non-profit that champions the rule of law, this week filed a suit in the High Court against the government, challenging the illegality of mounting of GPS trackers on all motor vehicles in the absence of safeguards for protecting the privacy and data belonging to people with no apparent connection to criminality or terrorism. In the affidavit, the outfit contends that government could as well use the digital monitors in motor vehicles to spy on political opponents, journalists and activists, and other powerful and well-resourced figures to engage in conduct which is detrimental to the public good or welfare or good governance. Following installation of the CCTV cameras 2 years ago, officials routinely praised them.
The recent shooting of General Katumba by the usual shallow actors, whom I called pigs the other day, you remember I called them pigs, showed the poor organization of the police. The cameras I put in place did their work. As you saw, the killers were running from one area to another area. Why didn't the camera center alert all the patrol cars and even the UAVs? UAVs are these unmanned air vehicles. We have them. They can follow you anywhere once they are deployed to chase and block these killers. No, these wonderful camera managers think that their gadgets are only for storing videos for forensic analysis as part of the post-mortem of the operation.
CCTV cameras were first installed on the streets of Kampala and Entebbe in 2007 in preparation for the Commonwealth Heads of Summit meeting. However, they were restricted in the city centre and the efficacy was called into question after a spate of high-profile murders. Phase 1 of the CCTV project covered Kampala Metropolitan Policing Area, catering for 18 divisions with 3,233 cameras installed, and Phase 2 covering all municipalities, highways, major towns and all borders, while Phase 3 commenced in May this year, covering other parts of the country. The 2020 Police Crime Report released early this year shows the cameras have been used to crack especially phone thefts, kidnaps, counterfeiting, car thefts, a handful of murders and robberies, among others. The police report also details that the cameras were useful during the just concluded elections, particularly at capturing rioters, destroying property, burning tires on roads, and looting. However, the CCTV cameras have been selectively used. For instance, 8 months later, since the deadly November protests, when security personnel went on a shooting spree, killing more than 50 people in Kampala, Wakiso, and Mukono districts, majority of whom were not protesting, no suspect has been brought to book.
But the point is that the intended mischief that it was intended to resolve hasn't been resolved. Rather, there have been some coincidental benefits arising from the systems we have installed. If it was to stop murders, clearly it hasn't worked. Of high-profile people, it hasn't worked. But the other thing is this. You can think about it's like building, sophisticated highways in a country where you don't have a knowledge system to maintain, to run, and work with that system.
In the aftermath of the 2010 terrorist bombings in Kampala, government enforced the SIM card registration exercise to have all data of mobile phone users captured for mostly crime-fighting purposes. SIM card registration necessitated having a proper national identity card. The result was a stampede to register for IDs and SIM cards. But to some observers, the script in the motor vehicle tracking deal bears parallels with the Mukono-Katosi road saga, during which several regime functionaries, former Uganda National Roads Authority officials, colluded with the phantom company, Etau, during which at least 6 billion shillings was stolen.